Welcome to Survival Homestead Teaching Farm.
This is our second Homestead Huddle.
Today we would like to talk to you about the lessons that we've learned and what we've done on the homestead in the last year.
Both lessons we've learned and mistakes we've made, because we've made several and we've learned from our lessons, and we want to pass, no homestead's perfect. We want to make sure that you realize that you're going to run into problems, you're going to run into mistakes or issues that come up. That's perfectly natural. Every person goes through that. So don't be overwhelmed when it happens. So tell me, what do you think was our biggest mistake that we did our first year?
Definitely, we had infrastructure issues. That's the first thing that needs to come. You need to do that first. Have a good infrastructure before you get any animals, because we got goats without having the infrastructure, and that was a nightmare.
Yes. I love goats, I do, but not in the house.
Yeah.
And I rushed to build the first, what I call goat shack. And it's a nice goat shack, but hindsight, I'm building a second one now, which is a lot of the lessons learned from rushing to build the first one. So build your infrastructure, take your time, because that is very important to do, because it will save you a lot of headache and heartache in the long term, before you get the animals. For me, when I think about one of the biggest mistakes that we made, infrastructure was one, and trying to do it like all in one year. Like my honey-to-do list, it was like, it's still a mile long, but feeling that overwhelmness that it's not needed. You can do things and continue to do things, but trying to do everything in 1 year, it's going to feel overwhelming and make you want to give up.
Yeah, we were rushing just because, with the way the world is going right now, we were rushing and trying to get things in place.
Because we were rushing and stressed because of how the economy was and how we perceived everything going downhill so quickly, that put a lot of pressure on, we've got to do this now, because the supply chain issues that we're having is going to wreak havoc. We're not going to be able to have access to these materials, or, and it didn't happen immediately. I think that's what a lot of preppers think is, we've got to do it now. We're way behind, and we still feel, that we're way behind.
Yeah.
And that's natural, but to try to cram everything into 1 year, not a good idea. Now, on the flip side, I will say one of the best things that we did was, even though we did not get all our projects done in 1 year, we were buying materials for those projects when it was lower price and as we could afford it. Even though I wasn't able to build her greenhouse, I bought all the materials for it, so that when it comes time for me that I'm going to actually start the thing and build the greenhouse, I have all the materials for it set aside. Same thing for our fencing and stuff. I know fencing prices went up outrageously, over the last couple of years, and we got a lot of our fencing, all the fencing that we wanted and needed, before the prices went up. Or, again, all this costs money, and I know that stresses people out. But again, you don't have to buy all in one swoop. Buy it as you can afford it. Even if you know that you're going to have a future project, If it's cheaper now and you can afford it, buy it now. If you can't afford it, just build as you go. You know, you don't have to spend $100,000 all at once. It's much more manageable to break it out, even though you might feel pressured to do it sooner, because it's not practical.
And by purchasing all these things ahead of time, and even as far as, you know, like food or materials, you are saving money in the long run. You may spend a little bit more now, but look at the process of what they will be in the future.
She goes on like Marketplace and she looks for free items, free pallets, free what do you call them? What we got for the goats, coals.
The wooden stools.
Yeah.
For them to play on.
You know, the bad thing is she normally finds the free stuff right in the time I'm in the middle of a big project, and it's like, oh, gotta go get the truck and go to get this. I'm like, I'm right in the middle of this. But again, getting free stuff that people are wanting to get it, you know, or even cheap stuff. You know, I know we got tin roofing quite a bit for a major discounted price.
Yeah.
Well, we turned that tin roofing into our first raised beds. We have since then graduated up and gotten a lot better raised beds because of our bags. But
that was a good starting place.
Yeah, it's a good starting place. So look for things that are free. You know, pallets. You can do a lot of projects with just simple pallet. That's free wood.
And if you're willing to put a little bit of work in, you can get a lot out. Like, for example, we found it's one of those above ground round pools that someone just wanted to get rid of. And so we went in and we disassembled it. And so we have the liner for the pool that we could use for rainwater catchment for the ducks or any of the animals. We use the metal part as actual roofing for the goat shed.
Goat shed.
Yeah.
And the lining, turn it inside out. You can make your own little pond. You know, it's learning to use things that you wouldn't, thinking outside the box. I know another thing, you were looking online, someone was wanting to get rid of their deck. Okay, and this deck was only 3 years old.
It was nice.
It was nice. It was in good condition. Okay, all we had to do was go up there and dismantle it, and we take the wood. Well, yeah, that's a day's work, but we got a lot of free decking and
screws
and you know, just for free, you know, just a little bit of labor. So, you know, that's another thing. Look for these free things. Look for community or people that are giving away things that, even if it might be broken, some things can still be fixed and made useful again.
Yeah. That'll save you a lot of money in the long run.
So, what do you think was our smartest move?
I think our smartest move was purchasing trees and getting them in the ground, like apple trees and peach and all different types of fruit trees. And that way they can go ahead and get started growing, and you know, because sometimes they'll take a few years to begin producing fruit, and so that's just another source of food that we are getting going and getting growing.
And that's one that's commonly overlooked. Is most people think when they're starting a homestead, the first thing should be animals and stuff. Well, a tree takes a lot longer to start to bear fruit and to grow and mature than a goat. With that said, a fruit tree, or a berry bush, or elderberry, or so forth, that will give you continual some form of substance. Or feed for animals.
Yeah.
You know, apple trees. Okay, apples you can do. My wife makes her own apple cider vinegar. You can ferment and make alcohol. You can.
And it's really simple too to do all those things. I mean, you that could be animal feed, that can be feed for us, that could be so many. You can make so many things out of just apples, and I mean it's a great resource to have, especially in an SHTF situation.
Here's another thing. A lot of people think, well, citrus. You know, you need vitamin C. You need certain things. You know, citrus fruit trees and stuff are very valuable, and most people think, well, I can't grow it outside. And you're right. You can't in certain zones. In certain zones, you can't grow it outside. Well, a Meyer lemon tree doesn't get super big, especially if you keep it pruned. But lemons are amazing. You can do so many things with it.
Yeah, you can make. You need citric acid to make sour cream and certain things on Homestead, and that is a valuable resource. You can put a little bit of lemon juice with some cream and make you some sour cream.
You can also make your own cleaning products.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that you could do with these different fruit trees and stuff. Grapes, another one that will produce years and years once it gets established.
And that's good subsistence for us or certain animals.
You know, and I think for us, sort of along the same line, one of the smartest things that we've done is we've focused on a lot of perennial plants.
Yes, perennials.
Whether it be herbs or things for, you know, like I said, fruit trees, the things that will keep on producing. Planting things that will continually to pop up year after year, whether it's, like I said, for us to eat or benefit, or for our animals, because a lot of the herbs that we grow, we can give to the animals as a feed substitute, or even as medicinal for problems that the animals are having.
Yeah.
So it saves vet bills too. So that's one of the good things that we've started, is focusing on perennial and medicinal herbs.
And that's a lot less labor for us. You know, once you plant a perennial herb or any type of plant or tree, then, you know, it just continues to come back every year, and you don't have to put that extra labor into it the second and third, fourth, fifth year. So
now, on our first year, we went and we got goats, rabbits, ducks. And that was our main animals. We also recently got a guardian livestock dog because of hawks. You know. But what would you recommend as the first animal someone should get?
I kind of think it would be rabbits. They produce really quickly, and it's a good meat source. You can also turn around and use the fur. So there's a good range of things that you can do with a rabbit, and what a rabbit gives you. But that's also a lean meat. So I don't know, it would be a tie between rabbits and ducks, because ducks are very fatty, and that's what your body needs, is fat. So
I'm agreeing with you, but I think rabbits still outweigh the ducks, simply because you mentioned the fur and, you know, the meat and how they reproduce. I mean, you could get out of just a few rabbits a lot of meat in 1 year. But another advantage, their poop.
yes, their poop is so great. And with rabbits, they are easy to feed. They don't take a lot of feed, and that's something that we can grow and then turn around and feed them. So the cost to raise them is not much.
And again, it's a circle. We try on our homestead to be as little waste as possible. So what we're feeding them, they're actually putting right back out to poop. which we use to help grow our other things to help feed them. So it's a great circle. Ducks, yeah, I would agree that would be the second animal. A lot of people go with chickens, and there's nothing wrong with chickens. We prefer ducks. You know, I love chicken meat. Ducks don't tear up the ground as much. They're hardier, and if you take good care of them and stuff, they will produce longer and more eggs than a chicken will. The eggs also have a little bit more health benefits than chicken eggs.
Yeah.
And we put our ducks with our goats because they help keep the parasites down from our goats. So it's a kind of a circle with all our animals, and that's one thing that we've tried to establish is systems and things that work together and not against each other.
Yeah.
The one thing that you will have to do with the ducks that is frustrating once a year is clip their wings, but that's
that's
really
easy. That's an easy thing.
Yeah.
Just clip the wings and you're good to go, so they won't fly away. Another thing that we have learned is that everything is weather dependent. Everything that we do is weather dependent. Like when I hang laundry out to dry, that is weather dependent. If it's rainy or cold or anything, I've got to plan ahead. And even trying to work on the goat shed or whatever it is outside, that's weather dependent.
Yeah. Also, with my projects go a little bit slower because I have a bad back. So waiting for help on certain things, putting up walls and stuff. I can put them together, but setting them and stuff, I've got to have more than just me. We've went sort of the old school traditional roles on certain things simply because there's certain things that I can do better than she can do, and she can do better than I can do. And her knowledge base is a lot more in tune with certain things than mine is. So I handle certain things and she'll handle certain things.
I'm a very independent woman, and I enjoy doing non-girly things. And I like being outside building and doing things, but I also know that my knowledge of, let's say, canning or preserving food or the traditional roles of what used to be, it really comes into play. It's not that I feel like one is better than the other. It's just that I am more needed in the kitchen, whereas he is more needed outside. He can lift the things, the heavy things, a lot better than I can do, and so he plays on his strengths and I play on mine.
And that's something else. Certain people, like I said, her knowledge, like I know nothing about canning, but she can can inside and out. So, am I against learning to can? No, but. And I've got a book that will teach me, and I'm reading, so if I need to, I'll have that. That's another point. We've invested a lot of time and energy in getting, not necessarily watching YouTube and stuff. And YouTube is great. It's great.
Resource, yeah.
But nothing beats about having either first-hand knowledge or a good book that you can revert back to when needed, because there will be times that something comes up that you have no clue about. One thing I encourage is get books on topics, specific topics. Like we've got books on rabbit breeding and beekeeping, goats, how to build certain things, because again, I'm pretty good at building certain things, but sometimes there'll be an ideal or something that I don't realize, and it's like, oh, I can implement that. That's great. And like I said, from my first goat shed that I built, I took the lessons learned and the mistakes once I saw the goats in them and stuff, and it's like, okay, this next one, I'm going to make those corrections. And there are a lot of corrections that I've made and doing. And it's hindsight, you know. We understand that not every person or every couple can know and do everything. Community building is important. I know I've heard stories back from my grandparents and even my dad, how communities used to get together and they would have hog butchering days where everyone would bring their hogs, they would butcher all the hogs in one day, and the community would work together. You don't see that much anymore, and that is a shame, because what 10 people can do is a lot more than one single person working by themselves can do. So sometimes getting a community that is able to work together, you can get a lot more accomplished for a lot less time and a lot less energy than doing it by yourself. I've learned to suck up my pride, and I will ask if I need her help, you know, even on a simple thing, because just having that extra hand holding something up, I'm not ashamed to ask, you know, because it will make it go a lot quicker and a lot smoother normally. I mean, sometimes we differ on ideals, but
Yeah.
another thing that we've done is we've gotten a bunch of IBC totes for rainwater catchment. Now, again, we haven't hooked up all our systems yet, but we have those on hand. We would much prefer, we just don't have the money for, but if you could afford one of the large black 1,500 gallon water tanks, you know, that's a dream of ours, but not there yet.
Another thing that we have learned is the fact that, you know, those will freeze. So you got to keep that in mind. You've got to be able to either insulate them or do something to prevent the freezing.
We were blessed that we're basically on my family's old farm. You know, we're using part of it anyway. The pros to that is we had a lot of things already sort of in place. The negative to that is there's a lot of things I've learned that if this building or this structure wasn't there, I could put something else in its place that would work a lot better. So if you're starting out from, you know, just a raw piece of land, look over your land. Look at the pros. You've got an advantage there because you can build things where you want them, well, mostly, and use the lay of your land. If you're doing a water system, like a rainwater catchment, well, you want the catchment system up high and let gravity, you know, do the work, taking it where it needs to be. So learn the lay of your land and take the time to look at it and look at where things would best work. Because the negative to coming into a place that's already got some infrastructure is you're kind of stuck with it there unless you tear it down, even though it might have been better 100 yards away, you know, or up on this hill or down low. You know, it's a pro and a con. So try to focus on the positive things of what you have or what you can get, and not just the negative, because there are advantages on any property. You just got to find them and use them to your advantage.
And another thing about the gravity fed is if you use the gravity fed and not have to rely on pumps, you're a step ahead. Because if you're relying on pumps, okay, what if electricity goes out? What if you don't have that particular resource? Then your pump's not going to work.
Having redundant systems, because sure enough, something's going to break. Our redundant system right now for water is, we're blessed. We've got a creek down at the bottom that we can if need be, carry buckets of water to the animals and provide them water. Not everyone has a creek, I know that. But don't rely on technology 100%. Go with, if you've got a well, maybe invest in a well that just does an old-fashioned hand pump. That doesn't have as much mechanical parts. That if it breaks, you're out of water for a while, and you can't give water to your animals and stuff. You're hurting then. So redundant systems is always valuable to have and plan ahead. Water is you've got to have water. If you don't have water, your animals aren't going to make it. You're not going to make it.
And it's good to have more than one resource of water.
Yes.
If you rely only on rainwater, what if it doesn't rain for 3 weeks?
Yep.
You have to have water to survive.
Or a tank burst. Having just one tank, well, if you're relying on just that one tank and something happens to that tank, well, you're hurting. Even though it might take some time to fix, while you're trying to fix it, you're hurting. So having backup systems in place is always important. Now, again, that costs money normally. We understand that. So start out with your first system and work up to establishing your backup. Because we've known several people that their IBC totes burst. Well, okay, if it burst, how can we solve that? Okay, paint it black. That will help keep heat in. Put it in a actual surrounded building with some insulation. That'll help keep it warm. Also, put a little golf balls in, or floaty balls.
Yeah.
That
a little ping pong balls.
Ping pong balls, yeah. That help keep something constantly moving in there as water is going down.
Yeah.
So, learning to problem shoot is going to be an important tool because you're going to come up with lots of problems.
Yeah. Another thing that we've learned on the homestead is not having to rely on the different types of the ways of cooking food. Like if you have a gas stove, okay, that's great. But what if you run out of gas? What are you going to do? Okay, you have a wood burning stove. What if you are not able to go out and cut the wood to put in it? How are you going to cook food? So we have a sun oven, and that's something that we've learned that is very valuable. Use the sun's heat. It's a free resource, and it does very well. It cooks just like an oven does.
Yeah, you can even cook on it during the winter. It can even work on semi-cloudy days, but that's part of our redundancy. We've got a wood burning, stove if needed. We've got a gas stove, and we've got the sun oven. I'm going to be building her an outdoor kitchen.
And that's mainly, that's mainly because when I'm canning a lot is in the summertime when it's really warm or in the early fall, and so it heats up the kitchen inside. So a lot of people hundreds of years ago, they had outdoor kitchens because of that reason, and I think that's just that'd be a very useful thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be fancy. I'm building it mainly of cinder block. Gonna build her a big enough thing where she can actually, hopefully, can on it and stuff.
The stove part.
The stove part.
Yeah.
But learn these different things. Make your own smoker. Build your own smoker. You can smoke meat and preserve it. And it's really not that difficult if you learn how and do the research. We will probably be having a video probably in the future of that, but right now, a goat shack. That's
well. Another thing is too we've got to on our list to do is building a root cellar, because a root cellar can come in really handy. You gotta have a way to keep a lot of food cold. And if you don't have electricity and your refrigerator's not working, whatever happens, you need to have a way to preserve your food.
And that's another thing on my to-do list is the root cellar. Like I said, to-do list mile long, and it can look overwhelming if I'm looking at, I gotta get this done within this year. No, I've already told her, it's prioritizing what is the most important, because there are certain things that it has to take priority. Our right now it's the goat shack, because we're expecting that we'll start to have babies soon. So having a place for mama to have her kids, and then next would probably be a permanent duck structure, for our ducks. We got a temporary one that works great. Don't get me wrong, and that was easy to build, but it's not really a long-term solution. So that's what we're looking for, is long-term solution. So, and then probably your greenhouse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the greenhouse is, that will help with extending my gardening season and being able to grow in wintertime and all year round. But that's another thing we've learned, is a lot of gardening knowledge. If you think that you are going to just be able just to go out and grow a garden and everything's going to be fine, no. Our first year it bombed really bad, and every year we learn more and more and more, and we have planted in the ground, which is fine to do, but we've also learned how to compost and amend soil and use raised beds to help our backs so we don't have to bend down so much. And we have a green stalk too. We have several green stalks, and those are helpful because they're movable, and you can plant a lot of stuff. It's a vertical growing system. You can plant a lot of things in that.
yeah, and you can bring those inside during the winter, so that you're still producing vegetables or fruits, or that you want in the wintertime. A lot of people think that solar is the be all and do all, so to speak. That if they have solar, well, they're going to have the refrigerator, they're going to have lights, they're going to have all this. And solar, don't get me wrong, solar's great. We're even planning on doing solar.
We have a little bit of solar, but not
Yeah,
much.
but not much. Well, those solar things require modern technology, such as an inverter that could go out, or your refrigerator could go out. Well, then if you can't get a new one, you threw all your eggs in that basket. Well, now what? A root cellar is a kind of permanent structure that can keep things cool. So that is why we're going with the root cellar, too, as a must need, is because there are certain things that you got to look back in the past and see how our ancestors, and even not that long ago in the past, our great-great-grandparents, had to go through this. Refrigeration in grocery stores are a fairly new thing, when you think about it. And now it's, people think that, if the grocery store wasn't there, how would I survive? Well, how did your great-great-grandparents, survive? Well, they grew their own food and worked hard. Homesteading is not easy. It can be rewarding. It's challenging, but it's very difficult at times.
Physically and mentally.
Yeah. It can be very overwhelming, especially if you're new to it. Start out small. Take one, if you're planning on having multiple different types of animals, take one. Start out with one type of animal. We would recommend doing rabbits. We use Champagne d'Argent rabbits because they're great for meat and fur, and their temperaments are pretty good. But start out with something, a small animal. You can keep the rabbits in the house potentially. Just get the cages and stuff, and slowly build up. Don't let all the things that you think that you have to do discourage you because, oh, I don't have time for this, or don't have the resources for it, or the money for it. Well, start as you do it as you can, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, those are some of the things that we've learned over the last year and the mistakes that we've made. And hopefully this has helped you in learning about homesteading and farming and animals and all that good stuff.
We'll hopefully have a lot more videos. I'll be doing a video on the process of the goat shack, or I guess it's 2 goat shacks. Well, one really, a 10 by 20 goat shack split in 2.
Yeah.
So,
We'll take you to the process of building all of that. So
it'd be a little bit for it because weather has not been cooperating. I don't
weather dependent.
Yep. So.
All right. Well, thank you for watching, and we appreciate it here at Survival Homestead Teaching Farm.
Yep. Thank you for joining us on Homestead Huddle. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.